In every corner of the city, there are secrets, stories that hide in plain sight, waiting in the shadows, waiting for someone brave enough to witness them. And tonight, we step into that darkness once again. Welcome to Dynamic Dark. Welcome to a brand new horror experience. Welcome to episode 42. I'm Aditya, and tonight, I bring you 3 terrifying, completely new creepypasta stories, each stranger, darker, and more unnerving than the last. Fresh tales. Fresh week. Fresh nightmares. If you are new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you dare to face what comes next. Tonight's stories blur the line between reality and the unknown. Each one a descent into urban darkness and modern horror. Today's first story, The Stranger at the Window. 12 o'clock. Today's second story, The House That Moved. New moon symbol. And today's final story, The Sleepwalker Walking. If you crave horror that blends supernatural chills with suspenseful tension and psychological dread, you are exactly where you need to be. Because this is Dynamic Dark. For the best experience, put on your earphones, turn off the lights, and let the shadows, suspense, and fear consume you. Now let's begin with our first story, The Stranger at the Window. It was past midnight. The kind of hour where silence feels heavy, like the world is holding its breath. Ethan sat alone in his small living room, eyes fixed on the glowing TV screen, the only source of light in the entire house. The sound of the sitcom laugh track echoed faintly, masking the quiet creaks of the old wooden floor beneath him. Outside, the wind howled, a lonely, distant wail that seemed to circle the house. He sipped his coffee, his gaze blank, half lost in the dull warmth of the mug. It had been a long week, deadlines, insomnia, and that strange sense that something wasn't quite right in the neighborhood lately. Then a flicker. The TV dimmed for half a second. And in the reflection of the dark screen, he saw it. A figure, tall, motionless, standing just beyond the window. For a moment, Ethan froze. The laughter on the TV carried on, eerily mismatched with the terror crawling up his spine. The shape didn't move. It stood perfectly still, its face obscured in shadow, its outline sharp against the dim porch light. Ethan's breath caught. He blinked hard, telling himself it had to be a trick, maybe his tired eyes, maybe the reflection. But when he turned his head toward the window, the figure was still there, watching him. It didn't flinch, didn't sway, didn't even breathe. Just stood there, as if waiting for him to notice. The clock on the wall ticked painfully slow, each second louder than the last. Ethan's pulse quickened. He reached for his phone. No signal. Not even a single bar. Then came the knock. 3 dull thuds on the glass. Slow. Precise. Like the stranger wanted him to know he wasn't leaving. The sound echoed through the living room, vibrating in the walls, in his chest. Ethan backed away, whispering to himself, "It's just a prank, someone's messing with me." But deep down, he knew. No one else lived out here. Not for miles. And as he took another hesitant step back, the figure's head tilted slightly, its eyes glowing faintly. And yet, the reflection in the glass didn't match the figure. It moved independently. Ethan didn't breathe. He stood there, half hidden behind the couch, staring at the window. The figure outside hadn't moved an inch. The night wind pressed against the house, making the wooden walls groan, but the figure, it was untouched. Unbothered. Still. He squinted, leaning slightly to the side, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The glow from the figure's eyes was so faint, it looked almost unreal, like two drops of moonlight caught in its skull. But something was wrong with the reflection. It wasn't mirroring him or the ghost properly. The glass was showing something else. Ethan's reflection moved when he did. But the other one, that faint, ghostly shimmer layered behind the glass, didn't wait for him to move. It turned its head first. Slowly. Painfully slow. The joints in its neck cracking, the motion unnatural, puppet-like. And then, as if the real figure outside were obeying its twin, it turned too, a fraction later. The delay hit Ethan like ice water. His body stiffened. The reflection was moving first. His voice came out as a whisper, barely audible even to himself. "What are you?" The lights flickered again. The TV crackled, showing static for a brief second. And in that flash, Ethan saw it clearly, the reflection smile. A pale, unnatural grin spreading too wide, splitting the face almost ear to ear. The skin didn't stretch. It tore. He stumbled backward, the wooden floor groaning under his feet. His mind screamed to run, but his body wouldn't move. Every sound felt muffled, his own heartbeat, the creak of the furniture, even the faint hum of the refrigerator. The world had gone quiet, except for the whisper of something behind the glass. Then, a handprint appeared. Inside the window. From his side. A pale, foggy imprint pressed against the glass, fingers long and sharp. Ethan turned, but there was no one there. When he froze, heart racing. Every instinct screamed to run, but he couldn't look away as it tilted its head, observing him. The movement was impossibly smooth, like bones sliding underwater. The ghost's neck kept turning just a little too far, until its jaw nearly brushed its shoulder. Ethan's knees trembled, the sound of his pulse filled his ears. He tried to step back, but the floorboards groaned loud, sharp, betraying him. Outside, the figure twitched. Just once. Then it began to mirror him again, but this time in perfect rhythm, as if the glass between them had vanished. When he leaned away, it leaned forward. When he breathed in, the window fogged from its side, not his. The house felt colder now, breath showing in the air, every corner shrouded in a pale hatch. Ethan's fingers brushed the nearby lamp switch, desperate for light. It flickered weakly, throwing long shadows across the walls. And for the briefest moment, he saw others behind the main figure, half shapes, faint faces layered within the mist, watching too. He stumbled back, clutching the side of the couch. The reflection followed, that grin widening until the lips split soundlessly into black void. Its glowing eyes brightened, like lanterns feeding on his fear. The TV behind him sputtered with static, flashes of faces appearing in the screen, each one pale, each one whispering. Then came the sound again. Knock, knock, knock. This time, not from the window, but from inside the walls. Ethan's breath hitched. His back pressed against the cold plaster as the knocking grew louder, traveling toward him like footsteps crawling behind the surface. The reflection tilted its head one last time and whispered through the glass, voice low and deliberate. "Now you see us." Ethan's trembling hand hovered near the window, his reflection pale and uncertain in the flickering light. The world outside was silent, too still, too heavy. And then he noticed it. The figure's edges weren't solid anymore. The outline shimmered, soft and broken, as though made of fog and faint light. Its body seemed to float behind the glass, the white veils around it drifting slowly, like they were underwater. Ethan blinked. The porch outside blurred further, melting into distortion. His breath caught in his throat. The figure wasn't standing on the porch. It wasn't outside at all. It was within the glass. The faintest ripples spread across the window pane, each one bending light like heat waves. The ghost's glow pulsed softly from inside the reflection, a pale rhythm that didn't belong to anything living. Its face was hidden beneath a veil of mist, but two dim hollows stared back at him through the hatch. They moved independently from his reflection, drifting closer with every flicker of the TV light. Ethan whispered, "You are not real." But the air grew colder. Frost began to crawl across the edges of the window, slow, delicate, like veins of ice forming a web. The ghost's hand pressed against the inside of the glass, long, translucent fingers trailing streaks of mist. No sound. No impact. Just the faint ripple of the world bending where it touched. Ethan's reflection twitched. His own eyes blinked out of sync. He stumbled backward, heartbeat hammering in his ears. The figure's veil drifted upward, revealing a mouth that wasn't really a mouth, just a blur of light twisting open, like a silent scream caught between words. And then, in one pulse of white glow, his reflection vanished. The only face left in the window was the ghost's. Its veil drifted forward, as if caught by an invisible breeze, and for a single, impossible moment, Ethan thought it smiled. The power cut out. The room went dark. And from within the black glass, faint whispering filled the silence, dozens of overlapping voices whispering one thing in unison. Keep watching. The silence was suffocating. Ethan stood motionless, every muscle in his body locked. The faint frost on the window had stopped spreading, but the air felt colder than before, heavy, charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. The ghost hadn't moved for nearly a minute. Just hovered inside the reflection, veiled in its shifting white mist, the glow beneath its form pulsing faintly with each breath he took. Then, it raised a hand. Slowly, deliberately, as if it had been waiting for him to notice. Its long, pale fingers extended toward him, each motion unnaturally smooth, like the hand was gliding through water. And then, with impossible precision, it pointed directly at him. Ethan's lungs forgot how to breathe. He could feel the chill of that gesture, like the air itself had reached through the glass and brushed against his spine. It wasn't random. It wasn't a trick of reflection. The ghost knew he was there. He stumbled backward, his heart pounding. "What do you want?" he shouted, voice cracking under the weight of fear. The glass rippled. Not cracked, rippled, like a living surface responding to sound. The reflection shimmered, the furniture behind him bent and twisted, stretched like images seen through water. The ghost didn't stop pointing. Its arm trembled faintly, its veil drifting around the pale mist of its form. Beneath the fabric, something like a faint face began to take shape, blurred eyes, hollow and endless. Ethan's mind screamed at him to run, but his legs wouldn't move. He could feel warmth leaving the room, replaced by the biting cold of the unseen. The faint hum of the TV faded to static. And in that static, beneath the noise, a whisper emerged, soft, layered, endless. "We see you." The ghost's finger bent, not lowering, but curling, as though beckoning him closer. The ripples across the window deepened. Light warped. The floor beneath Ethan's feet vibrated faintly, as if the entire room was resonating with the ghost's presence. He shook his head. No, no, no. But the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness between flashes. Flash, the ghost closer. Flash, its hand pressed against the glass. Flash, the veil slipping away. On the final flicker, the ghost's face was fully visible, pale mist swirling around hollow eyes that glowed faintly like dying embers. Its mouth opened slowly, revealing nothing but blinding white light. And then the glass exploded inward. The sound wasn't like breaking glass, it was like the world itself tearing apart. Ethan shielded his face, stumbling back as icy air and mist rushed into the room. When he opened his eyes again, the ghost was no longer in the reflection. It was standing behind him. He turned slowly, every breath a tremor. The air shimmered around him, filled with that faint, glowing mist. The ghost stood in the center of the room. Translucent, ethereal, its veil drifting around its shape. It didn't move closer. It just pointed again. Ethan followed the direction of its finger toward the TV. The screen, filled with static, now showed him standing in the dark room. And behind his reflection on the screen stood another figure. The same ghost, but smiling. The whisper came again, soft, layered, cold. Now you see us. And the lights went out. The silence that followed was unbearable. Ethan's breathing was uneven, his pulse loud enough to drown out the faint hum of the television. The figure had vanished, or at least, that's what his eyes told him. But something in that room felt off. The air was colder now, pressing against his skin, crawling down his spine like invisible fingers tracing every heartbeat. He slowly stepped closer to the TV. Static hissed softly, the light flickering just enough to cast distorted shadows across the floor. He stared at the dark screen, at his own trembling reflection staring back. But then, his reflection blinked. He didn't. The realization hit him like a shock. His reflection moved a second too late. Its eyes, those faint, glowing eyes, looked directly at him, not through him. The same eyes he'd seen before. Watching. Waiting. Ethan stumbled back, heart pounding, his throat tightening. He reached for the switch, anything to end this, but the TV sparked, the light flaring white for just a second. And in that flash, the reflection smiled. Then, silence. The screen went black. The room fell into complete stillness. But even as Ethan stood frozen in the dark, he could feel it, the weight of a gaze that didn't belong to him. A faint shimmer at the edge of his vision. And sometimes, on nights when the TV hums though it's unplugged, when shadows bend the wrong way, he swears he sees those eyes again. Watching. Patient. Always there. Always. Today's second story, The House That Moved. It was the kind of place that made people stop and stare, a two-story wooden house at the edge of town, half hidden by tall grass and fog that never really went away. When Clara and David first saw it, they thought it was perfect. A quiet escape from the noise of the city. A place to start over. The house stood on old land, older than anyone in the neighborhood could remember. Locals said it had been moved, though no one could quite agree from where. Some said it came from the next town over after a fire decades ago. Others whispered that it had been dragged piece by piece from somewhere much farther, across forests and rivers, until it settled here. But Clara didn't care about ghost stories. To her, it was charming vintage woodwork, tall windows, creaky floors, the kind of home that smelled like history. That first evening, as they unpacked boxes, the sunset poured through the windows, painting the walls gold. Everything felt calm. Almost too calm. By midnight, the lights were dim, the wind outside had grown restless, and David had fallen asleep on the couch. Clara wandered through the hallways, humming softly, taking in the old architecture. Her footsteps echoed faintly, though she could have sworn she wasn't walking that heavily. Then came the first sound. A low, dragging noise from upstairs. It lasted only a second, but it was unmistakable. Like a heavy piece of furniture being pulled across the floor. Clara froze. She waited, straining her ears. Silence. Just the whisper of wind through the cracks in the walls. She let out a nervous laugh. Old houses make noise, she muttered. But a few minutes later, it came again. Louder. Longer. This time, David heard it too. He sat up, frowning. What was that? Probably just the pipes, Clara said quickly. But her voice lacked conviction. They climbed the stairs together, flashlight in hand. Each step groaned under their weight. When they reached the top, the hallway was darker than before, as if the light bulbs had dimmed on their own. Boxes they hadn't opened yet were scattered near the guest room door. Except now, the door was half open. Clara didn't remember leaving it that way. They peeked inside. Nothing. Just dust and moonlight. But as they turned to leave, the floor beneath them shuddered. Just slightly, like something deep below the house had moved. David's flashlight flickered. Did you feel that? Before Clara could answer, the dragging sound came again, this time from downstairs. Slow. Rhythmic. As though the house itself was shifting its weight, inch by inch. They stood frozen, listening. The sound moved from one end of the house to the other, walls creaking, beams groaning, the chandelier above them swaying ever so slightly. And for the briefest moment, Clara had the strangest thought. The sound wasn't inside the house. It was the house. Like the structure itself was changing position. Then, silence. Not even the wind dared to whisper. They didn't sleep that night. By dawn, the front porch steps, the ones David had repaired just yesterday, were cracked again. And when they looked out the window toward the fields, the view seemed different. As if the house had turned ever so slightly in the night. The first few nights felt strange, but by the end of the week, the house had started to behave. Doors that had once creaked open gently now slammed shut with a force that rattled the glass panes. Sometimes, they would find the windows locked in the morning, even though they clearly remembered leaving them open the night before. Ethan laughed it off at first, teasing Clara about ghosts, but she didn't smile. She had heard things he hadn't, soft footsteps pacing in the hallway long after midnight, a whisper under the sound of rain that seemed to murmur her name. The floorboards had their own rhythm too. They didn't creak randomly, they shifted, as if something unseen walked just behind them, moving when they did, stopping when they froze. Sometimes Clara would place her hand on the wooden planks and swear she could feel a faint heartbeat pulsing beneath the surface, slow, heavy, alive. Every night the house seemed to change. The furniture was slightly off, corners felt narrower, and shadows fell where no light existed. Once, Ethan caught something at the edge of his vision, a tall, black silhouette standing motionless in the reflection of a mirror across the hall. When he turned, the hallway was empty. But the air, it breathed. And though they tried to convince themselves it was their imagination, Both of them began to feel it, the sense that the house wasn't just haunted, it was watching, learning, moving. Every slam of the door wasn't random. Every whisper wasn't the wind. It was the house, and it was waking up. By the end of the second week, sleep had become impossible. The noises that once whispered faintly through the walls now echoed like a pulse, rhythmic, deliberate, alive. It wasn't just random creaks or the wind groaning through the old beams anymore. It was something deeper, something that listened back. At night, Ethan would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between the sounds. Thud, thud, thud. It wasn't coming from outside, it was coming from beneath them. The floorboards trembled faintly with every beat, as if the house itself was breathing in slow, heavy rhythm. Clara tried recording it on her phone one night. But when she played the audio back, there was no heartbeat, only whispers. Dozens of overlapping voices, faint and broken, whispering things she couldn't understand except her name. She deleted the file immediately. Soon, the walls began to shift ever so slightly. Picture frames hung at new angles. The corridor seemed longer. Even the door to their bedroom changed its position by an inch every morning, as though the house was rearranging itself while they slept. The air grew thicker, colder. And then, one night, Clara felt it, a vibration under her hand when she touched the wall. It pulsed once. Then again. And for a moment, she swore she could hear a heartbeat inside the plaster. Ethan pressed his ear against the wall beside hers, and heard something breathing back. Slow. Deep. Human. He stumbled backward, whispering, "The house, it's alive." But before Clara could respond, the lights went out, every bulb bursting one by one. The house fell silent except for that low, steady thud that seemed to come from the heart of the home itself. And in that suffocating darkness, they both realized they weren't just living in the house anymore. They were living inside it. It happened on a quiet Sunday morning. The kind that feels too still, too ordinary to hold anything strange. Ethan and Clara had gone into town, just a quick errand run, groceries and hardware supplies for the ever-creaking doors. The air was oddly heavy that morning, the sky a dull grey that hung low, pressing down on the endless stretch of fields. They were gone for barely 2 hours. But when they returned, something was wrong. At first, it was hard to place. The driveway looked slightly different, the gravel scattered in new patterns, the front porch steps not quite where they remembered. Clara laughed nervously, blaming fatigue. But when Ethan stopped at the gate, his breath caught. The house had moved. Not metaphorically. Not a trick of light or distance. The entire structure, walls, windows, roof had shifted forward. Just 2 feet, maybe less, but undeniably closer to the gravel path. The earth behind it showed drag marks, deep grooves in the soil, as though the house had been pulled by something enormous beneath the ground. They stared in disbelief. The mailbox now leaned at a new angle. The porch railing had splintered slightly, leaving a jagged edge. Every measurement was wrong, everything was off. Ethan ran his hand along the wooden siding. It was worn. Not sun-worn, body-worn. Inside, things were even stranger. Furniture had slid closer to the front of the house. A table leg was embedded into the wall. Picture frames hung crooked, tilted toward the direction the house had moved. Clara whispered, "Maybe the foundation's shifting." But her voice shook. Because deep down, They both knew foundations don't shift overnight. They don't move an entire home forward. And as they stood in the doorway, the light flickered once. A low, dull groan echoed from beneath the floorboards, the same rhythmic sound as before, only louder now, almost like a heartbeat struggling to keep pace. Ethan stepped back, staring at the ground beneath the house. For a split second, he swore he saw it, the soil pulsing. He whispered, "It's not just moving, it's crawling." And somewhere in that stillness, between the beats of the earth, a distant creak replied, as if the house had heard him. Windows rattled violently, the glass trembling as if the entire house were screaming. The boy and girl froze in terror, every breath they took echoed louder than the chaos around them. The lights flickered again and again, shadows twisting on the walls like dark figures dancing in pain. The air grew heavier, colder. With each flicker, the floorboards bent, creaking under invisible weight. The boy could hear something beneath the wood, a pulse. A heartbeat. It was faint at first, but growing louder, sinking with their fear. The girl whispered, "Do you feel that?" Her voice broke, her eyes fixed on the trembling wall. A slow groan came from inside it, like the house itself was alive, stretching its limbs after a long sleep. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. The noise echoed through the halls like thunder. Portraits hanging on the wall began to tilt, one by one, until every painted face was staring straight at them. Then came the whisper. Not from a person, but from the walls. A deep, guttural voice that seemed to seep through the cracks, "You shouldn't have woken me." The windows burst open at once, a gust of freezing wind swept through, blowing papers, curtains, and dust in every direction. The boy held the girl close, his eyes wide as the lights died completely. For a few seconds, there was only darkness, and that heartbeat. When the light flickered back on, they weren't alone. A black, smoky figure stood in the corner, tall, shapeless, its red eyes burning through the hatch. It didn't move, but the air around it distorted, as if the space itself was bending. The house groaned again, louder, angrier, and suddenly the floor beneath them split open, the sound of splintering wood filling the room. The walls pulsed once more, and that's when they realized the house wasn't haunted. It was the ghost. Long pause. Faint heartbeat fades out. Alive and furious. The boy and girl didn't wait another night. They packed what little they could carry, leaving behind furniture, boxes, even memories they had hoped would stick to the walls. Every creak, every subtle groan of the house that had once felt like home now screamed at them, "Get out." They drove away under a grey, heavy sky, the countryside blurred past the car windows. But even in the distance, the house seemed to follow them. The windows, dark and empty, almost watched. Days turned into weeks. Life returned to a semblance of normality, though neither spoke much about that final night. Yet rumors began to spread. Neighbors whispered, hesitant to speak aloud, "The house, sometimes it moves." Not much, just a subtle shift, a foot forward, a tilt to the side, as if the building itself were breathing, adjusting, alive. At night, some claim they see shadowy figures behind the curtains, lingering in shapes too tall, too distorted to be human. The boy wakes at 3 a.m., thinking he hears the faintest creak, a pulse beneath the floor, even though he knows he's miles away. The girl, staring out at the street, swears the wind carries a whisper, soft, deliberate, teasing. It's as if the house, or whatever spirit inhabits it, has left a part of itself behind. Waiting. Watching. And sometimes, just sometimes, when the moon is high and fog hugs the earth, the neighbors see the house shift slightly again. The spirit inside still lingers. And today's final story, the sleepwalker walking. Every night, Leela would leave her room silently, sleepwalking without a sound. At first, neighbors thought it was harmless, until dark shadows began following her, moving unnaturally through the halls, and whispers called her name. It wasn't just sleepwalking anymore, something unseen was with her. Every night, she stopped at the same spot, in front of a neighbor's building. Her movements were eerily precise, too smooth, too deliberate. Shadows seemed to gather around her, bending and twisting unnaturally, as if something unseen was guiding her. It didn't feel human, it didn't feel natural. One night, the neighbors watched in silence. Leela's hands shot up, pointing frantically at the building, trembling violently. Her movements were sharp, unnatural, almost jerky, like she was trying to warn them of something unseen, something waiting inside. The next morning, the neighbors were stunned. Part of the building had collapsed, right where Leela had stood the night before. Dust and rubble filled the air. Everyone froze, realizing she hadn't been sleepwalking randomly. Somehow, she had known exactly where danger would strike. It was as if Leela had been guided by something unseen. A dark, silent force moved with her, unseen but powerful, steering her away from danger. Her sleepwalking was no longer random, it was a warning, a protection, from a spirit she couldn't even remember encountering. Even now, long after that terrifying week, Leela sometimes sleepwalks again, silently slipping from her room into the dimly lit streets. Her movements are fluid, almost otherworldly, yet her eyes remain closed, unaware of what she's doing. Neighbors who live nearby can't help but watch from behind curtains and partially open windows, hearts pounding. Some whisper among themselves, careful not to disturb the night air, she's at it again, the same path, the same movements. The street lights flicker as she glides past, her hands occasionally rising as if sensing something invisible. Shadows, faint and smoky, cling to corners and walls, moving subtly, sometimes behind her, sometimes stretching ahead, as though waiting for her, guiding her. Objects in her path shift slightly, a stray chair, a potted plant trembling, papers fluttering with an unnatural gust, yet she never touches them, never seems aware. The wind carries whispers, soft and deliberate, echoing faintly from alleyways and rooftops. Some say they hear the faintest warning, carried in the tone of the rustling leaves. And yet, despite the fear, she moves on unharmed, as if protected by the same unseen force that guided her that fateful week. The neighbors wonder in silence, eyes wide, hearts racing. Is it memory, instinct, or is the spirit still watching, still guiding her every step? And in the shadows, if you look closely, you might catch a hint of black, smoky figures, pulsing faintly, a silent guardian that never leaves. That was the end of episode 42 of Dynamic Dark. If you enjoyed these terrifying stories, make sure to comment below which story scared you the most. The best comment will be pinned by me, Aditya. So, don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications bell if you dare to see what comes next. And share with your friends and family too. Or you can suggest a topic for the next episode, like a foreign urban legend, haunted place, or any other creepy horror story. The suggestion with the most likes might be featured in the next episode. Until then, keep listening to terrifying stories, because we'll be back soon with episode 43. And in the next episode, we'll bring you creepypasta horror stories. Yes, an English episode this time. Stay tuned and keep watching the horror episodes of Dynamic Dark. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new horror episode. New fears, new darkness, and new secrets. Join the Dynamic Dark family with 3 brand new terrifying stories.